The night sky above Normandy was a dull charcoal, the kind that swallowed sound, the kind that weighed on the shoulders of every young American standing in the mud. It was late July 1944, weeks after the beaches had been taken, but the smell of cordite and death still lingered in the hedgerows. Somewhere in the distance, sporadic machine gun bursts rattled like metal teeth chattering in the cold. Private Aaron Whitaker wiped sweat and dirt from his forehead as he leaned against the side of a half-track, listening to the hum of engines, the clatter of tools, and the rumbling frustration of the men around him. "Damn roads," Sergeant Bill Rawlings muttered, kicking at a rut deep enough to swallow a Jeep tire. "If the Krauts don't kill us, these damn hedges will." Aaron forced a hollow laugh, but inside, he felt something else: pressure. For days, rumors circled through the camp like hungry wolves. Rumors that General Patton was coming. Rumors that the Americans were stuck, not because of German strength, but because the U.S. Army was burning fuel faster than anyone could supply it in a cramped stone farmhouse turned command post. A group of officers crowded around a table lit by a single flickering lamp. Maps were pinned everywhere. Arrows, red and blue, sliced across the parchment like veins. Lieutenant Colonel James Davenport traced the lines with a trembling finger. "We have the armor to break out," he said. "We have the men. We have the sky. But unless we get fuel and ammunition, fast, we're dead in the water." Behind him, a radio crackled with static, then snapped into clarity. "Enemy armor sighted east of St. Lo, multiple Panthers, request immediate resupply." Davenport closed his eyes. They were so close to breaking out, he could feel it. But the logistical backbone of the U.S. Army, trucks, fuel depots, road networks, was buckling under the weight of the largest army ever to set foot in Europe. Across the lines, in a heavily fortified chateau used as a field headquarters, the mood among the Germans was confident. Oberst Klaus Reinhardt stood with hands clasped behind him as he observed a captured American jerrycan brought to him by his adjutant. "They drink fuel like Americans drink coffee," Reinhardt chuckled. "These Yankees, huh? They rely on machines too much. They move like giants, but eat like giants. Soon enough, they'll starve, and then we will crush them." Another general, Erich von Grime, joined in with a smirk. "Logistics will destroy them before our artillery does." They believed it. Nearly every German commander believed it. The Americans had too many vehicles, too many men, too much that needed fuel and shells. Their reliance on machinery, Germans argued, was a weakness. When they run dry, they joked, their army becomes a museum of useless steel. But laughter hides fear, and deep inside, German commanders knew what their intelligence officers whispered. If the Americans find a way to feed their machines, there will be no stopping them. And they were right. In the hedgerows, Private Aaron Whitaker awoke to the sound of thunder, not natural thunder, but the low, hungry growl of engines. Hundreds of them. He scrambled out of his tent, rubbing sleep from his eyes. Soldiers from every corner of the makeshift camp were emerging, staring down the long dirt road as headlights pierced the night. "Holy hell," someone whispered at a long serpentine line of GMC CCKW trucks, Jimmy trucks, rolled forward, bumper to bumper. Olive drab steel glistened with morning dew. Canvas covers billowed in the wind. On the doors, circular insignias marked them as part of something new, something whispered about only recently among officers. "The Red Ball Express," Sergeant Rawlings murmured, awe creeping into his voice. Aaron watched, mesmerized, as soldiers with red armbands jumped from the trucks, barking orders, directing drivers, checking maps, tightening straps. These men moved with a speed and intensity he hadn't seen since D-Day. "What is the Red Ball?" Aaron asked a nearby officer. The man grinned. "It's how we're going to win this damn war." The Red Ball Express was an idea born of desperation and genius. A non-stop, 24/7, round-the-clock supply highway manned mostly by African-American drivers, many of whom had been relegated to support roles but were now thrust into one of the most critical operations of the war. They drove at night, without lights, under threat of enemy aircraft, through bombed-out villages, over roads barely wide enough for a horse cart. Their supplies? Fuel, ammunition, rations, repair parts. Enough to feed an army advancing faster than any in the history of warfare. Aaron watched a young black driver jump down from his truck, wipe grease on his pants, and shout, We got 5 minutes to unload and 8 hours back. Boys, move. Rawlings nodded respectfully. These guys, they're the real heroes today. As the sun rose, new energy filled the American lines. Drivers hustled. Mechanics worked with renewed purpose. Tank crews smiled for the first time in days at a forward tank depot. A Sherman commander named Captain Elliot Ford lifted a full jerrycan with both hands, kissed it jokingly, and shouted, "Tell Patton he's got his juice. Let the old man loose." Nearby, the rumble of M4 Shermans, M10 tank destroyers, and armored cars echoed through the valley. Whispers spread, "Patton's here. The Third Army is coming. Now the real war begins." Then came the moment that changed everything. General George S. Patton stood on the hood of a jeep, binoculars in hand, surveying the valley below. His ivory-handled pistols glinted in the sun. A Red Ball driver approached him nervously. "Sir, fuel for the 4th Armored is ready." Patton nodded, snapped his binoculars shut, and barked, "Then get them rolling. We're going to crack their goddamn spine." He turned to his officers. "Gentlemen, our tanks were thirsty. Now they're drunk. And the Germans will drown in their own arrogance." The ground shook as Patton's armor surged forward, crushing hedgerows, blasting through German positions. Artillery thundered. P-47 Thunderbolts screamed overhead, strafing enemy columns. Machine gun fire sparked from windows and tree leans as American infantry charged behind the armor. Amid the smoke, Aaron Whitaker sprinted alongside his squad, heart hammering. Bullets snapped past his ears. Explosions tore through the hedges. The Germans fought hard. Ambushes, anti-tank guns, mines. But every time they slowed the Americans, more fuel arrived. More ammo. More steel. More Red Ball trucks. "They just keep coming," cried a German soldier before being dragged back by his sergeant. Even Reinhardt, confident days earlier, now watched the chaos unfold with dread. How are they moving so fast?" he muttered. His adjutant swallowed hard. "Sir, reports say the Americans have created a dedicated supply highway." Reinhardt stared, stunned. "Eh, what?" "A nonstop line of trucks, day and night. Thousands of them." For the first time, Reinhardt's confidence cracked. The Americans had solved the one problem everyone said they couldn't, and the German line was beginning to break. The French countryside blurred into smoky greens and browns as the American advance accelerated beyond anything seen in Europe since the opening days of the war. Villages that had been under German control for 4 years erupted in cheers as Patton's armor thundered through like unleashed bulls. Private Aaron Whitaker felt the earth tremble as he ran beside a column of tanks heading toward Avranches. The ground smelled of fuel, mud, and burning rubber. He could barely hear his own thoughts over the roar of engines and the constant staccato of machine guns. Above, P-47 Thunderbolts screamed across the sky like metal hawks. Their bombs fell in rhythmic succession, whistle, thump, roar, leaving fountains of dirt and fire in their wake. Radio chatter filled the air. "Third Army advancing." Repeat, "Third Army advancing." Panzer formations retreating southeast. Convoy Rouge en route, supplies inbound. In the chaos, a Red Ball truck skidded to a halt near a crossroads littered with abandoned German gear. The driver, Corporal Henry Hawk Hayes, jumped down and waved frantically. "Fuel for the Shermans. Move your butts, boys. These tanks ain't waiting." Aaron and several infantrymen formed a chain, passing jerrycans to the tank crews. Sweat poured down their faces. Every second counted. "Where the hell did you come from?" Aaron asked breathlessly. Hawk grinned. "Drove 11 hours straight. No lights. Damn near hit a cow. Now hurry up before another Panther finds us." Aaron couldn't help but laugh, adrenaline masking his fear. Across the battlefield, Patton's headquarters buzzed with frantic activity. Officers ran from tent to tent carrying maps, fuel reports, and intercepted German transmissions. A lieutenant burst into the command tent. "Sir, German command believes our advance is impossible. They think we're bluffing." Patton smirked, wiping dust from his boots. "Good. Then let's hit them twice as hard. And if they still don't believe it, we'll hit them again." He stepped outside and watched the line of trucks, thousands long, snaking across the horizon like a steel artery pumping life into his army. Behind him, a war correspondent scribbled notes. "General, what makes this advance possible? Patton didn't hesitate. One word, logistics. You can't fight without gas, son. You can't win without steel. And you sure as hell can't chase Germans without wheels. The Germans felt that chase like a whip cracking across their backs. The German 7th Army headquarters, near Le Mans, chaos reigned. Radio operators struggled to relay orders. Officers shouted conflicting commands. Reports piled up. American armor breaking through south of Coutances. They are outflanking us at every turn. They must have unlimited supplies. This speed is unnatural. Oberst Reinhardt slammed his fist on the table, knocking a cup of cold coffee to the floor. Impossible. They were stuck in hedgerows last week. They cannot move this fast. His adjutant cleared his throat sheepishly. Sir, reconnaissance confirms non-stop truck convoys, thousands of vehicles. Reinhardt's face paled. The Red Ball Express, a dread settled over him. He realized the Americans had achieved what German command had considered impossible. Operational mobility that exceeded anything in the Wehrmacht arsenal. And it was only getting worse. In a dusty French village, Aaron Whitaker and his squad found themselves pinned behind a stone wall as German MG-42 fire chewed through barrels and shutters. A German Panzer IV rumbled forward, its turrets swiveling to Aaron's breath caught. We need a bazooka. Now, before anyone could react, the distinctive sound of a Sherman's 75mm gun cracked from behind them. The shell slammed into the Panzer, erupting in fire. The tank crew bailed out, screaming. Captain Ford's voice boomed from the Sherman hatch. Get on your feet, boys. We're pushing east. The infantry surged forward, overtaking trenches, forcing German soldiers into a panicked retreat. Later that night, as the Americans dug in near a forest clearing, Aaron sat beside a small fire, exhaustion weighing on him. Sergeant Rawlings handed him a canteen. You did good today, kid, Rawlings said. Aaron shook his head. I was terrified. Rawlings smiled faintly. We all were. Courage ain't the absence of fear. It's pushing forward anyway. Suddenly, the rumble of trucks echoed again. Another Red Ball convoy rolled through the night, headlights dimmed, exhaust spewing heat. Aaron watched silently. These men, the drivers, were unarmed, unarmored, and constantly hunted by German aircraft. Yet they ran the gauntlet daily. You know, Aaron murmured, I think those guys are braver than all of us. Rawlings nodded. If they stop, we stop. And they didn't stop. They couldn't. Because Germany was collapsing. As August rolled on, Patton's forces circled behind the retreating German 7th Army. By mid-month, the jaws of the Falaise pocket were closing. German soldiers, tanks, horses, trucks, they were trapped. The sky was full of black smoke as American artillery pounded the chaos below. Reinhardt stood among the ruins of his division, his uniform coated in dust. He looked to the east and saw lines of German vehicles burning, men fleeing on foot, wounded screaming for medics. He knew the truth now. We are defeated, he whispered hoarsely. His adjutant looked at him with hollow eyes. What do we do, sir? Reinhardt exhaled, long and painful. Survive. On the opposite ridge, American soldiers watched the collapse unfold. Aaron felt a strange heaviness as he stared across the battlefield. Sergeant Rawlings stepped beside him. War ain't glory, Whitaker. This is the cost. Aaron nodded slowly. Do you think it ends soon? Rawlings looked at the smoke-filled sky. It ends when we make it end. The war continued, but the tide had already turned. After the breakout from Normandy, the Allies swept across France at speeds no one believed possible. Town after town was liberated. German morale crumbled. American soldiers, exhausted, battered, haunted, pressed forward. In September, Aaron's unit stood outside the city of Reims as French civilians hugged them, offered wine, flowers, and tears. Aaron smiled weakly, but inside, he remembered the screams of Falaise, the bodies in the fields, the convoys that never came back. That night, Patton walked through one of his fuel depots, an ocean of jerrycans stacked under guard. A reporter asked him, General, is it true that logistics won this battle? Patton lit a cigar. In the glow, his eyes looked older, more tired. Battles are won by men, he said. But men can't fight empty. The Red Ball Express gave my boys the strength to fight. And that, he took a deep drag. That is what broke the Germans. Across the front, German officers wrote their final reports with trembling hands. The Americans advanced faster than any army in history. Their logistical capabilities surpassed all expectations. We underestimated them. Reinhardt sat in a dim prison 10 weeks later, staring at his hands. He had survived, but the weight of defeat crushed him more than any bomb. He whispered to a British interrogator. We thought they were foolish, dependent on machines. But their machines kept coming. Their trucks kept coming. They never stopped. Tell me, how did they do it? The interrogator responded simply. They refused to let each other down. Meanwhile, Aaron Whitaker's division halted near the German border for rest. Aaron wrote to his mother, "We keep moving, Ma. We keep pushing. Sometimes I'm scared, sometimes angry, but I know why I'm here. I know who I'm fighting for. I just pray this ends soon." He folded the letter and looked out at the setting sun. Trucks continued rolling across the horizon, their engines humming like distant thunder. He thought of the drivers, men like Hawk Hayes, who risked everything without ever firing a shot. He thought of the villages spared because fuel had arrived in time. That he thought of the German prisoners whose arrogance had been shattered by the sound of endless American engines. As night settled, Aaron whispered to himself, "We didn't win because we were stronger. We won because we kept going." The camera pulls back. American convoys stretching endlessly across France, Patton's tanks pushing east, the ruined German war machine in retreat. The narrator's voice echoes. In war, battles are won by courage, but victory is built by those who carry the weight. The Red Ball Express fueled the liberation of Europe and proved that the strength of an army lies not in its guns alone, but in the people who keep it moving. The screen fades to black. To the drivers who never stopped, your courage carried a continent.